So I've seen this on Twitter. Does learning C as a first language make you, a better engineer? Do you understand, knowing that C will force you to understand the fundamentals and how a programming language like C deals with the bare metal, well, the OS, and then the bare metal, dealing with memory allocation and so on? Does that make you really appreciate that? Well, the answer, you might say, is like, oh, of course, yes. But it really depends on you. And I'm going to give you an example. Okay? Take me, for example. 20 years ago. 20 years? Yeah. But the first language I learned was, I believe, C. That's what they taught us in the university, C. Yeah? But, when you first learn something, it all depends on your passion to, are you really interested to know what's happening behind this? And I wasn't, I'll be honest, completely honest. I wasn't really interested to know what's happening behind this. I have a goal in mind. I want to do a program on. I don't even know what I had in mind 20 years ago. It was like sometimes you just do things because you feel attracted to it. So C, I learned C, and then I didn't really. I'm copying and pasting code. That's what I know. All right, the professor said, all right, you have to call this malloc thing to do this. All right, you have to declare a variable. What happens behind the scene? I don't know. Well, they taught us about stack and heap, and it went all over my head. And that's because there was no real truthful desire to actually learn. So then my first language became VB6, my real first language that I use to write programs, because it's just more convenient, it does the job. And nothing wrong with that. So then, fast forward maybe 15 years ago, then something sparked in me. It's like, you know what, I really need to understand what's going on. And these languages that I've been writing, I switched from VB6 to VB.NET to C# to PHP. And all of this is just hiding a lot of things from you. There's a lot of abstractions. And abstraction causes problems. And as I've started facing problems, problems for performance and whatnot, and I understand that the need to learn what is happening behind the scene is actually critical. So now, if I go back to C and start looking at it with a different lens, I really appreciate the language so much. Right? And it does tell you. And now that, because of that, all my courses, almost all of them, if I want to explain something, I use two examples: a very high level language like JavaScript, and then a very low level language like C to explain the details. I have to, because it's impossible to explain anything in JavaScript. It's like what is happening behind the scene. There's so many levels of libraries, and the runtime and the interpretation that's going on. It's just like, wow, don't even go there. Let's just see how, like, socket programming. If I want to explain that, you can, of course, do socket programming in Python and JavaScript, and people do, and I do. But to actually illustrate what happens, you have to use C. And C exposes you, like, hey, to do that, you have to call this system call that is called accept. And this system call that is called listen. And you have to pass in a backlog. It's like, what's a backlog? Granted that these parameters are exposed in Node.js and other programming languages, but they often, like, are default, you don't care about them. But C makes you think about them. I just woke up an hour ago. That's why my face. But so the answer is C is and other languages as well that are low level, and I call them low level because not in a sense that they are machine or assembly, but they force you to be to think outside the box. I don't know if that's the right term, but forces you to think about every line of code. But it all depends on you, right? And for the longest time, even, networking, a TCP connection, if I create a connection, I didn't really care what happened behind the concept of a connection, the handshake. I didn't really care about it because, again, I didn't feel a need to until I run into a problem. If I want to optimize thing, and I say, okay, what is going on here? Then the interest naturally occur. And if the interest naturally occur, that is the best way. It's not forced. You never force learning at all. Forcing learning is really doesn't give you anything, because nobody would force to learn anything. If you genuinely want to learn, you'll just genuinely want to learn. And you find yourself, and that actually applies to anything, not just programming. Right? And you're gonna have joy in exploring the intricacies of what you are learning. So, is C a good programming language to start with? It really depends. Try it out. See, are you really naturally interested to every single call you're making? Okay? Are you really interested in all this allocation, deallocation, what's happening behind the scene? Maybe you're not. You can continue. It's like, all right, I need to do these 3 steps, and maybe I don't know what are these yet, and I don't frankly care right now. But in the future, you'll say, all right, actually, I'm ready to explore this. And this is called in learning, this is called collateral knowledge, where you have a target goal, and to get to that goal, you find yourself running into obstacles, and to undo these obstacles, you have to learn those obstacles, and by side effect, you end up learning a lot. So you end up getting collateral knowledge as a result of you just marching through. So yeah, I don't know if that video helped, but I like to make these kind of quick insights, and you might agree or disagree, of course. What do you guys think?